would like to thank our board chairman, Dr. Donna Mills, who advocates and organizes the Speaker Bureau to come visit our schools throughout the year. Dr. Mills is up here in the front. The Bureau is in its 4th year and in 14 schools throughout the district. Dr. Mills and her husband are co-founders and CEOs of the after-school tutorial, cultural and recreational center called Save Our Children, located on Avenue D in Fort Pierce since 1986. Please join me in thanking Dr. Mills for her involvement with the children of St. Lucie County. Superintendent Gent is a lifelong and dedicated educator who has served in a variety of roles in his 40-plus years in education. In fact, one of his earlier positions was as an assistant principal right here at Port St. Lucie High School in 1989 when our school first opened. Personally, I have worked with Mr. Gent for 13 years. This relationship started when I was an assistant principal and Mr. Gent was my principal. He has taught me many things over the years, too many to recount now. But if I can name one above all else, it is that our students achieve at a high level while at the same time making sure we maintain a positive culture on our campus. It has been a privilege to work in a school that is so near and dear to Mr. Gent's heart. He was an original Jaguar, and it is an honor to be entrusted with ensuring that his school continues to thrive and to take the responsibility, and I take that responsibility very seriously. 27 years ago, he wrote, "Dedicated to student achievement" on many of the walls of our school. We still see that phrase on our gym wall. When making a decision, I have personally heard him ask the question, and how does this affect student achievement? Above all, he cares about our kids and their future. And now I would also like to ask Dr. Mills to come up to say a few words about Mr. Gent as well.
How many of you, by a raise of hands, know what school board members do? By your raise of hands, do you know what the school board member does? Raise your hand if you know. Mr. Gent, I want you to look around and see not one hand is raised. That is why we come as a Speakers Bureau to teach you about your surroundings. You know, textbooks can only teach you but so much. But for us to come through giving our life stories, because that's what we do, we bring speakers all over the community now to share with you their life story so that it can help you interpret and gain information about life skills. Because no matter how much education you get with the textbook, if you don't know how to live within your surroundings and develop those skills, then you will find yourself at a loss. So education is about learning about your environment. It's about learning about the things that surround your world. And it takes itself in many different shapes and forms. And all together, if we give the education to the whole person, we believe that you will be able to be successful in life. So a school board member is someone that has to run a campaign, first of all. Nobody hires me as an individual. Everyone hires me. The community goes out and they vote for school board members. And you got to get enough votes to hold this position. Now, what it does is this. I am an officer for the state of Florida regarding public school education. That means that I look out on the local level to ensure that those laws and regulations that the state of Florida has put in place is implemented within our local school district. And we do that through setting policies to ensure that that is done. If it wasn't for the vote, I would not be the first black female ever to serve as a St. Lucie County school board. So your vote It's very important because it's when you go out and you place a vote in that ballot, you are saying this is the person I want to serve and represent me. And we serve the people, we serve our district. I want to thank the school district board of members in the school district for supporting this effort, along with our staff and our administration, and of course Mr. Gent, who supports this effort. And I want to also thank my husband of 43 years, who is my partner with the Speakers Bureau. Reverend Kenneth Mills. And also, I want to also mention a young man here who travels around the district with me. All of it is volunteer work. Me being here, this is not my job. I already told you what my job was. This is my volunteer service to St. Lucie County School District. And this young man has been a speaker for the Speakers Bureau for the past 2 years. And if he would stand right now, he's a dynamic speaker. I've already heard from your principal. He's going to have him come and say a few words and share his story. Because what I ask my speakers to do is not come and tell you how you should live your life. I ask my speakers to come and share their life with you. And then once you get that information, I hope that you make it knowledge, which means you understand and know now and are a little wiser on how to be successful in life. Mr. Samuel Gaines, please stand so our young people can see you this morning. Just stand and wave at him. Be obedient. Thank you. Oh, I said Samuel Gaines? Oh my gosh, Samuel McDuffie. Samuel Gaines was the a school board member for 30-something odd years in this community. Anybody know Samuel Gaines? So that he was on my mind. So at this time, without further ado, we're going to have our superintendent of schools come before you with his life story. Thank you.
All right, good morning, Jaguars. So, May 22nd, 4:30, it's on a Tuesday at the Finn Center. Dr. Mills and myself will be shaking your hands as you come across the stage with the, before you get the diploma. So what I want you to do, and I want to see all your eyes, I want to make sure when you come by that you say, if you want to get that extra minute of glory, because it's going to be on TV and it's broadcast live on the web, just stop by and say, I heard you speak when you were at Port St. Lucie High School, and that'll give you a couple extra minutes of fame before you move on to your next, whatever you're going to do next. So that's what I want to talk about right now. So I am an original Jaguar, but I got a question for you first. Mr. Ocampo, does he wear a suit every day? Yeah. No, is he dressed up today for company, huh? Yeah. All right. Mr. Ocampo doing a nice job? Yeah, he's doing a good job. Do you know that you guys, I got a new track out there coming, and you're going to have new bleachers in your gym. And that's one of the main reasons. And the way the school looks from when you were a freshman to right now, you can thank Mr. Ocampo. One other thing. When I tell you my story, it has a direct impact on everybody in this room, and it has a direct impact on everybody in this school. Because like Mr. Ocampo said, I was an assistant principal here, and when I tell my story, it's going to be part of it. And there's a lake out in front of the school, and part of my story has to do with that lake in front of the school. So, I'm from Miami. Let me tell you what a superintendent does too, okay? Because a lot of folks, just like Dr. Mills talked about, and I want to thank Dr. Mills for inviting me to speak, and the last time I did this was at one of your rival high schools up at Westwood High School. And so I appreciate what she does and doing the Speakers Bureau, and she's exactly right. We're not here to talk to you, we're not here to preach to you, we're here to tell a story, and then you're mature enough, because most of you are 17, 18 years of age, you got to make some tough decisions in the next few months, and you got to make some tough decisions in the next 5 years. And I'm going to start, and I'm going to lead with it. The decisions that you're going to make, the decisions you're going to make in the next 5 years, you're going to spend the rest of your life managing those decisions. So that's just something to think about. You're going to spend the rest of your life managing those decisions. So if they're good decisions, they're easy to manage. If we make some mistakes, which we all do, that leads to some hardships and some adversary, but that doesn't mean you can't be successful. So, a superintendent, what do? You got a principal of a school. Superintendent, we have 38 schools in St. Lucie County and approximately 38,000 students that go from pre-kindergarten to seniors. And so I'm responsible for everything that happens in the school district. So I'm kind of like the principal of 38 schools. And the school board hires me, so I work for the school board. And they're voted in and elected in, so I work for them and I work for you to make sure that the system runs smoothly. And so, let me tell you my story. From Miami, Florida. I was born in Miami, all right? And go Canes is right. And so, anyway, yeah, I hear you. So anyway, I remember when I was in your position right now, I can remember January of my senior year. Okay? But let me tell you about how I got to the high school I was at. I was always involved in sports. I'm always involved in athletics. I played baseball, I played football, I played basketball. I was talking to one of your soccer players here a minute ago. Played a little soccer as well. But my main sport was basketball. So when I was in junior high, back then it was called junior high, not middle school, and it was only 7th and 8th grade. My goal was to go to a school called Carroll City, Miami Carroll City Senior High. Yeah, because they had a great, the Chiefs, very good. They had a great sports program and a great basketball program, okay? So, my sister went there, my dad would take us to all the basketball games. So when I'm in middle school, or in junior high, my 8th grade year, they changed the boundaries, so I was no longer a boundary to go to that school, but to go to another school. So that was very disappointing to me because I've been thinking, this is where I want to go and I want to try to make the basketball team. So I did a transfer and took a class called Latin, which is a foreign language that nobody ever hears about too much anymore. But I took that class to go out of zone to Carroll City to try to make the basketball team. And I had thought about this for 3 years, about that tryout and what that was going to be. So the day the tryout comes, we walk into the gym, and there's over 150 young men lined up that are trying out for the team. And there's only going to be 12 that make it. And I remember walking in going, whoa. And they lined us up on a wall, and they went down and counted out 10 guys, put them out on the floor, and you play man-to-man, and if your man scores, you're out. You go back to the back of the line and see if it's going to be a chance for you to come in. So I'm in the middle of this thinking, this is messed up. I may not even get in here today to see what for this coach can see what I can do. So finally it was my turn to get in. I'm playing a guy, hits some crazy shot. I was only in there for about a minute or two. I'm back at the end of the line. The first day's over, it's a 2-day tryout, and I'm thinking, wow, I spent all this time trying to make this team, and I screwed up the first day, got in there, my man scored quickly, and this coach didn't even know who I am. But I didn't let it deter me because we had one more day to come out. So I knew that, you know what, I need to be at the front of the line. I need to be in front of 150 guys, so I'm one of the first guys out there. So I did exactly what you guys do sometimes. I made up an excuse so I could get out of class early, okay? And I don't remember the details of it, but I remember that I was in the top 10 guys when we had the second day of practice and stayed on the floor for a long period of time. Long story short, made the team, and we were state champions. My senior year in high school, we were the state champions. So my main goal right then was to make the team, and made the team. Didn't let that first day of adversary kind of hurt me. I could have quit, I could have made excuses, I could have said, all this stuff, but like, there's something inside of me that doesn't quit. And so made the team. Now, my senior year, my buddy and I, one of my best friends, we're going to go to the University of Florida. That was our goal, to go to the University of Florida. And I was going to major in broadcast journalism. I wanted to be a sports announcer because I love sports that much. And so we have to take, just like you have to take different tests, the SAT now and the ACT. Well, back then we had to take what's called a senior placement exam. I scored 1 point less than was needed to get into Florida. All right? So they said, okay, you're still accepted, but you need to come up to a summer school program, and then you'll be enrolled if you're successful in the program. Well, my family didn't have a lot of money, and I had to work. In fact, I worked all through high school to offset and help out with the expenses. So I couldn't afford to go to Florida for that summer. So just like where you're at right now, you're thinking, well, what am I going to, I want to go to this school, I want to go to that school. That dream of going to Florida was kind of shattered. So my guidance counselor talked to me and said, there's a small school up in North Carolina, and I could get you into that school, and you could go up there, but they don't have broadcast journalism. And I thought, okay, and then a buddy of mine that played basketball at another school was going to go to that school, so I decided, sight unseen, to go to Asheville, North Carolina, go to a small college called Mars Hill, and major in education, because I always liked my teachers, and I liked this one teacher that I had, and I also thought, you know what, I'll be a basketball coach, I'll be a coach. So the goal of being a broadcast journalism was kind of shattered. I'm disappointed. I could have sat there and said, well, I'll just stay in Miami, I'll work, or I could persist and say, you know what, no, this isn't going to set me back. I know there's a plan for my life, and I'm going to do something with it. So I went to college, got to 4 years, got a teacher, came back, was at Fort Pierce Central, was a head boys basketball coach, a teacher as well, and then my goal at the time, I got my master's degree at the University of Georgia, who got beat. Anybody stay up to the end of the game last night? Okay, all right. If you don't know what happened, overtime, they threw a long pass, and Alabama won. Well, I was rooting for Georgia because that's where I went and got my master's. So anyway, I'm off track. So I'm a basketball coach, teaching, but I wanted to go into administration. I wanted to be an assistant principal, and my goal was to be a principal. So at Fort Pierce Central, I do all these things, and I have my master's degree, and I have what it takes to be an assistant principal, and I interviewed when the position came open and got the assistant principal job. Well, then when you're assistant principal, your next goal is to be what? Principal, right? So my goal was to be the principal. So 1989, this school is being built. All right, Lucie High School is being built. I applied for the principalship, and there were top 3 finalists. And I got a phone call. I was in Orlando at a conference at the time, and I was told you didn't get the position. The position went to a gentleman by the name of Mr. Charlie Kumo. So I'm upset, and I'm like, okay, disappointed. Not upset, but disappointed. I thought, I should have been, I had what it took to be the principal, could open up a brand new school, da-da-da-da-da. So I could have easily sulked and said, well, okay, I wasn't successful at it. I'll stay at Fort Pierce Central. But Mr. Kuma was a good guy and deserved the position. So I called him up and said, hey, can I be your assistant principal? So he took his main competition and said, sure. So I came here, opened up the school for 2 years. Funny story about the lake up there is that, where's Mr. Rodriguez? All right, right over here on the wall. He was a student at the time, and he was on the basketball team. And we're playing Westwood. First year, I don't think we had any seniors that year. No seniors the first year. We're playing Westwood, so I made a bet with the basketball team. If you can beat Westwood, I'll swim that lake out in front of the school. That alligator-infested, python-infested, crocodile-infested, amoeba-infested lake. And we upset Westwood because we had no business beating them. We had a great coach, Kareem, Mr. Rodriguez, who was really a really outstanding high school basketball player. So we beat them, so I swam that lake. So if you ever hear that story about some crazy guy that swam the lake, that's a true story, not an urban legend. But anyway, long story short, didn't get the principalship, was the assistant principal, then went to Forest Grove. You ever hear of Forest Grove Middle School? All right, opened that school, got my first principalship, then they sent me over to Westwood High School as principal, did some stuff there. Long story short, I spent 20 years here. So while I'm principal, what's the next goal after principal if you want to keep moving up the ladder? Superintendent. So I'm thinking, you know what, I want to be superintendent of schools, I want to do more for more folks. So I left the county in 2000. I was here for 20 years and left and went to Palm Beach County and served in a role that was up there down there for 15 years, but it was in a role called area superintendent, where I had an area of Palm Beach because there's 180,000 students in Palm Beach County, and there's 188 schools compared to 38 schools here. So I had a region, but my goal was to be superintendent. And in 2003, the superintendent job opens up in St. Lucie County, so I apply, and I came in second. All right? Just like applying for the principalship here, didn't get it, came in second, and I remember the phone call saying, you did a great job, you finished second. So I could have quit right then and said, you know what? All right, that was a nice try. But I remember driving home that night going, I wouldn't have done anything different in this interview, nothing different, and it was a great experience. My time will come one of these days. So a few years later, I ran for superintendent. Just like Dr. Mills, you have to run for public office. Different counties, some counties it's an elected position, some counties it's appointed. So Martin County, I ran for superintendent, and there were 5 people. Guess where I finished? Second, came in second. So now I'm a 2-time, I don't want to say loser, but a second place finisher, right? And so folks could get discouraged, and I wasn't discouraged at all. I thought, something will work out. A few years later, Indian River County opens up. Apply for Indian River County. and it's a long, drawn-out process. Guess where I came in? Second. So I won the silver medal 3 times in a row. Okay, this is over, this is really over a 10-year period of time. I could have easily been discouraged. I could have easily stepped back and said, man, you know, the system's not fair. They screwed me over. This guy didn't deserve that. This lady didn't deserve that. But no, I didn't do that. I just thought this will be a learning experience. My time will come one of these days. So I'm down in Palm Beach County, and the superintendent then asked me to go become principal. I was an area superintendent and asked me to go to Dwyer High School. You've heard of Dwyer High School. Go to Dwyer, the school's underperforming, and turn it around. That's where I met a guy named Adrian Ocampo, Mr. Ocampo. So, because when he told you that I was his principal, well, he wasn't a student. He was an adult. He was the assistant principal. So that's where our paths met. And we'll talk about that in a second and how that has an impact on everybody here. So he's the assistant principal. I serve in that role. Then go back to the county office. The superintendent in Palm Beach County steps down, and they have an opening. I didn't want that job. I did not want that job. Wasn't interested in that job. But they asked me to serve as what was called the interim. When the superintendent stepped down, they were going to do a national search. It's kind of like recruitment, a national recruiting for a superintendent to come in. And they asked me if I would be temporary, which is called an interim, to run the district until they bring in their person. And I said, sure, I'll be happy to do that and hold the district get together, but I didn't, couldn't be the superintendent if you were the interim, and I didn't want the job. So I did that for several months. And at the end of that period, they do their national search, and they changed the rules, and they said, we want you to apply for the position of superintendent. And so guess what happened? I got it, okay? After 3 tries over a 11-year period, I got the job. I didn't want the job. I didn't want that job. I didn't ask for that job, but I received it. Now, if earlier in life, if I'd have been upset and said, well, I didn't get this one or that one, I could have easily quit. I could have easily stepped back and said, well, it's not fair. So I get this job that I don't really want. I get thrown into that position. We're the 11th largest district in the country. So did that for 4 years. Promoted this gentleman here to principalship at, what was the name of that school? Egret Lake, an elementary school, even though he had been high school. Then he went to Duncan Middle School, and then I put him out at Lucie High School. So not only did my career begin to expand, but because of I know good talent, that gentleman right there also, because we only win with good people. So I'm superintendent, and after 4 years, I'm not happy. I'm not happy. I'm ready to do something different. We were the highest performing school district in the state of Florida in urban schools. We outperformed Miami, Broward, Fort Lauderdale, Tampa, Orlando, Jacksonville, all the large counties. Palm Beach outperformed them in every area. We had great support from the community, and I was ready for a new challenge. So just like you're in a position right now that you may know what you want to do next, all I knew was I was ready for a new challenge, but I wasn't sure what that was going to be. So I announced that I was not going to be returning after that year finished up. And it's kind of like coming out of high school or coming out of college. I didn't know what I was going to do next. So I saw St. Lucie County, the position opened up for a superintendent, and I'm thinking, we could do some great things at that county in St. Lucie. That had been my home for 20 years where I started my career. So the board unanimously selected me to come back. So the place that I first tried to be superintendent and came in second, really achieved the goal 15 years later, came back as superintendent and was appointed here in St. Lucie County for 2.5 years. So the point is this. There were many obstacles, there were many things that stepped in, stand in the way, things that I wanted, certain goals that I had that I was not going to be deterred by. Every one of you this morning did the same thing. You got up and you looked in the mirror and you got dressed, okay? And y'all look good. But when you look in that mirror, what do you really see? And who are you looking at? Now, here's my question to you. Here's my question. And I want you to be serious. Not who do your friends see, not who do your teachers see, not who do your administrators see, but who are you really when they look in the mirror, okay? And what's inside you? Listen to me. What defines you? Okay, what defines you? And do you have what it takes to overcome whatever comes your way? Now, you may not be able to do that on your own, but you can do that through friends. So even though I experienced failure on 3 different occasions, okay, failure won't kill you, but feeling like a failure could. Because if you feel like you don't have what it takes, and you feel like I'm not worthy, and you feel like, I'm missing out, I could have done this or that can hurt you long term. So my challenge to you is this. Just like I had simple goals, my goal was to go to Florida. Well, my first goal was to make the basketball team and to graduate from high school. Okay? Well, I made the team, but I just barely made it by the skin of my teeth. But it didn't matter, I made it. Played on a state champion. Didn't get into Florida, so then my life was changed because I went into education. Okay, and that directly affected you guys because of my personal experiences. I hired this guy and then brought him back to this county, and he's now your principal. You got a new painted school. You guys are going to have a 90% graduation rate here in a couple of days. All right? That's because of your principal, your administrators, your wonderful teachers and staff that you have here. So, I had goals, and you need to have goals. And you know what's going to happen along the way? It's not always going to go the way you want it to go. So you can either sit back and go, make excuses, like too many people do nowadays. And this is where I want to just look in the eye. You can make excuses. Excuses are for losers, okay? You may have some hard times. You may need to talk to people. You can't do it on your own. But you have something inside of you that can overcome any of those obstacles. And you know what an obstacle is? You have a goal. You have an obstacle. The obstacle is what you see if you take your eyes off the goal. So don't let that happen to you. Keep your eye on that, and it's not always going to go your way. There's going to be ups and downs, and that's where you have to persevere. That's where you have to stand tough, and you got to work your way through it. So I was able to do those things, not just because of myself, but because of a strong faith system that I have, and because of others around me. So all those experiences led me today to be here in front of the Jaguars in the graduating class of 2018, which is going to be approximately how many, Mr. Ocampo? About 5? What do you got? About 400. About 400. So I'm going to see you again. What's the date? May 22nd? Yeah. It's a Tuesday at 4:30. You have to be there early, and I'm going to be able to give you a diploma. So your next step is right in front of you. Okay? So I hope I said something here again. You got to set that goal. You got to overcome those obstacles, and don't let anybody tell you. Nobody can make you feel inferior without you letting them. All right? Nobody can make you feel inferior without your own consent. Okay? So you hang in there, you be tough, and just as this school is progressing and making wonderful gains, you can do the same thing. All right, Jaguars? All right, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Dr. Mills.